God lifted a weight from Margaret Sullivan that had crushed her for 17 years. Every night she could not sleep. Every morning she could not move. 23 doctors, 15 medications, 41 nights in hospitals across Pennsylvania. Nothing worked. Then someone taught her what to say before bed. Pope John Paul II had documented this. The weight lifted while she slept. Margaret Sullivan was 68 years old. She lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The weight started after her husband passed away in 2003. Not grief alone, something heavier, something that settled into her shoulders and never left. She described it as carrying someone else's life on top of her own. The doctors called it chronic pain syndrome. She called it unbearable. She tried physical therapy 3 times. She tried nerve blocks twice. She tried steroid injections that left bruises on her spine for weeks. She prayed novenas to St. Padre Pio. She attended a healing mass at St. Paul Cathedral. She went on a weekend retreat in the Allegheny Mountains, where the priest told her to offer her suffering to Christ. She offered it. The weight remained. Her daughter drove her to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. They ran tests for 4 days. They found nothing structurally wrong. They sent her home with a prescription for medication that made her so tired she could not stay awake past 4 in the afternoon. She stopped taking it. She stopped asking doctors for help. She stopped telling her daughter how bad it was. At night she would sit on the edge of her bed and whisper the same prayer she had whispered since childhood. Our Father, Hail Mary. Nothing changed. She began to believe God had stopped listening. Father Daniel Morrison was a priest in the Diocese of Pittsburgh. He had served for 31 years. He had been a hospital chaplain at Allegheny General for 19 of those years. He had sat beside more than 400 people in their suffering. He had anointed the sick. He had prayed for healing. He had watched some receive miracles and others die in pain. In 2009, he attended a conference in Rome on the writings of Pope John Paul II. One afternoon session focused on his apostolic letter Salvifici Doloris, the meaning of redemptive suffering. The priest leading the session mentioned something Pope John Paul II had written in his private spiritual notes during the final years of his life, when his own body was failing and every movement caused pain. He wrote that the heaviest suffering was not physical pain, but the spiritual weight of carrying something God never asked us to carry. He documented a specific practice for releasing that weight before sleep. Father Morrison wrote it down. 6 months later, he tried it himself. He had been carrying something he could not name since his mother passed away. The weight lifted in 3 nights. You have carried something for years that prayer has not lifted. You have offered your suffering to God. You have asked for healing. You have done everything the church teaches. The weight remains. You go to bed exhausted and wake up more tired than when you lay down. You have started to believe that this is how the rest of your life will feel. That God has given you a cross you must carry until you cannot carry it anymore. You have stopped saying out loud what you say to yourself every night, that you do not know how much longer you can do this, that you have asked God to take this weight and He has not taken it, that maybe you deserve to carry it. The error is not in your faith. The error is in what you have been carrying. You have been carrying weight that was never yours to carry, weight you picked up without knowing it. Weight that attached itself to your suffering and made everything heavier. Pope John Paul II understood this. He documented how to release it before bed. You were never taught this. Tonight that changes. Father Morrison had carried the weight since 1987. His mother was diagnosed with cancer that spring. She suffered for 8 months. He prayed beside her bed every night. He anointed her 3 times. He begged God to heal her or take her quickly. She suffered until the end. After she passed away, he felt relief. Then he felt guilt for feeling relief. The guilt turned into weight. He carried it for 22 years without naming it. He told himself it was grief. He told himself it would fade. It did not fade. It grew heavier. He woke up tired. He celebrated Mass tired. He heard confessions tired. He sat beside people in the hospital and felt like he had nothing left to give them. In Rome, he sat in that conference room and heard the presenter say that Pope John Paul II had identified a specific kind of suffering that attached itself to grief, to trauma, to loss. Suffering we take on ourselves because we believe we deserve it. Suffering that blocks us from receiving what God is trying to give us while we sleep. The presenter read from Pope John Paul II's notes. Before sleep, the soul must release what it was never meant to hold. Only then can God lift what He alone can carry. Father Morrison sat in that room and felt something crack open inside his chest. That night in his room in Rome, he knelt beside his bed. He said the words the way Pope John Paul II had documented them. He felt the weight shift, not disappear, shift, like something loosening its grip. He slept 7 hours for the first time in years. By the third night, the weight was gone. He woke up and realized he had not thought about his mother's suffering once during the night. He had dreamed of her smiling. He made a decision. He would find every person he knew who carried this kind of weight and teach them what Pope John Paul II had left for them. Father Morrison found Margaret Sullivan in the spring of 2010. He had not seen her in months. She used to attend daily Mass at St. Paul Cathedral. She stopped coming. Her daughter called him one afternoon. She said her mother could barely get out of bed anymore. She said the doctors had done everything they could. She said her mother had stopped praying out loud. Father Morrison drove to Margaret's house in Squirrel Hill that evening. It was 6:30. Margaret answered the door in her robe. She looked 20 years older than the last time he had seen her. He asked if he could come in. She let him in. They sat in her living room. The light was fading through the window. He looked at her and said, "Margaret, what are you carrying that God never asked you to carry?" She stared at him. Then she started to cry. She said, "I do not know, Father. I just know I cannot do this anymore." He leaned forward. He said, "Pope John Paul II understood what you are feeling. He suffered the same weight at the end of his life. He documented how to release it before you sleep. If you do what he documented, God will lift what you have been carrying." She looked at him like she wanted to believe him, but could not let herself. He said, "Tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to say 3 things out loud. Just 3 things. I will write them down for you. You say them every night this week. You will know by the 3rd night if this is what you have needed." She agreed because she had nothing left to lose. He gave her one specific instruction for tonight. She was to kneel beside her bed if she could, or sit on the edge if kneeling was too painful. She was to say the first sentence out loud, then wait, then say the second sentence, then wait, then say the 3rd sentence, and go to sleep immediately without praying anything else. If you are hearing these words right now, it is because you recognize what Margaret recognized in that moment. You have done everything right, and something is still wrong. You have prayed the prayers you were taught, and the weight has not lifted. You have offered your suffering, and it has not been taken. You have started to believe this is just how your life will be. You are hearing this because someone who loves you wanted you to know what Pope John Paul II documented. Because tonight does not have to be the same as last night. Say yes in your heart right now, and something will shift before morning. Margaret knelt beside her bed at 10:15 that night. Her knees hurt, her shoulders ached. She held the piece of paper Father Morrison had given her. The first sentence was written in his handwriting. She read it out loud. "God, I release to you every weight I have carried that was never mine to carry." She waited. She did not feel anything. She read the second sentence. "I release the suffering I took on because I believed I deserved it." Her voice cracked. She waited. She read the 3rd sentence. "I ask you to lift tonight what only you can lift." She folded the paper. She climbed into bed. She did not pray the rosary. She did not say her usual night prayers. She closed her eyes and fell asleep within minutes. She slept for 5 hours without waking. She woke up at 3 in the morning. The weight was still there, but something felt different, lighter, like someone had loosened the straps. She said the 3 sentences again. She went back to sleep. She woke up at 7. She sat up without wincing. On the 3rd night, she knelt beside her bed and said the 3 sentences. She slept through the night for the first time in 17 years. She woke up and the weight was gone. Not the memory of her husband, not the grief, the weight, the thing that had made it impossible to breathe. She cried for an hour. On day 7, she walked to daily mass. Father Morrison saw her come through the door. She looked 10 years younger. On day 14, she stopped taking 2 of her medications. Her doctor could not explain why her pain levels had dropped. Margaret told him she had learned to let God carry what she could not. 3 months later, she wrote Father Morrison a letter. She said, "For 17 years I carried something that was crushing me. I thought it was my cross. It was not my cross. It was weight I picked up without knowing it. The moment I released it, God lifted it. I have not felt that weight since the 3rd night." Catherine Torres was 71 years old. She lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She had carried weight since her son left the church in 1996. He stopped going to Mass. He stopped calling. She prayed for him every single day for 14 years. She offered masses for his return. She prayed the rosary every night with his name on her lips. The weight was not worry. It was something heavier. Guilt. She believed his leaving was her fault. That she had failed him as a mother. That God was punishing her by keeping him away. She could not sleep more than 3 hours a night. Her daughter found a video online about what Pope John Paul II had documented. She sent it to her mother. Catherine watched it alone in her bedroom at 11 at night. She knelt beside her bed and said the 3 sentences before sleep. She said, "God, I release to you every weight I have carried that was never mine to carry. I release the suffering I took on because I believed I deserved it. I ask you to lift tonight what only you can lift." She slept 6 hours. By the 5th night, the weight of guilt was gone. She still prayed for her son, but the crushing weight was lifted. 2 months later, her son called. He said he wanted to come home for Christmas. He said he had been thinking about going back to Mass. Catherine said later, "I thought God needed me to carry that guilt to bring my son back. God needed me to release it so he could work." Across 3 lives in 3 American cities, the same pattern. Years of suffering, prayers that felt blocked, weight that would not lift. Then 3 sentences said before bed, then sleep, then the weight gone. This is not coincidence. This is what Pope John Paul II documented in his final years, when his own body was breaking and every breath was suffering. He understood that some weight is not meant to be carried, that some suffering we take on ourselves blocks what God is trying to do while we sleep. Pope John Paul II wrote about suffering more than any pope in modern history. His apostolic letter, Salvifici Doloris, on the Christian meaning of human suffering, was published in 1984. In it he explained that suffering has redemptive power when it is united to the cross of Christ. But he also documented something else, something he returned to again and again in his private spiritual notes during the final years of his pontificate. He wrote that there is suffering God allows, and there is suffering we create by carrying what he never asked us to carry. The first kind of suffering can be offered. The second kind must be released. He understood this because he lived it. After the assassination attempt in 1981, he carried not only the physical pain of his wounds, but the weight of knowing someone had tried to end his life. He forgave Mehmet Ali Agca. He visited him in prison. But the weight remained. Not anger, not fear, something else. The knowledge that he had been marked for suffering. He wrote in his notes that for months after the shooting, he could not sleep without waking in pain. Not physical pain alone, spiritual weight. He began to pray a specific prayer before sleep. He asked God to lift what he could not carry. He asked God to take the weight he had picked up without knowing it. He documented that within days the weight shifted. He wrote, "God does not ask us to carry everything. He asks us to release what blocks his grace. Only then can he lift what only he can carry." This is the spiritual foundation of what Margaret Sullivan did, what Catherine Torres did, what you are about to do tonight. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." He did not say carry your burdens until you collapse. He said, come, release, receive rest. Pope John Paul II understood that rest happens during sleep, when we release what we were never meant to hold. St. Faustina Kowalska, whose devotion to divine mercy Pope John Paul II promoted and canonized, wrote in her diary that Jesus told her, "You carry things I never gave you. Put them down." She wrote that the moment she released them in prayer before sleep, she felt the weight lift, and the mercy of God fill the space where the weight had been. Pope John Paul II returned to her writings again and again during his final years. He understood what she understood, that God cannot fill what we refuse to empty, that he cannot lift what we will not release. Before bed, the soul must open its hands. It must name what it has been holding. It must say out loud, "I release this." Then sleep becomes the place where God does what only he can do. He lifts the weight while you sleep. But there are two things that will block this from working, even if you say the words correctly. The first blockage is unforgiveness, not unforgiveness towards someone else. Unforgiveness toward yourself. You have been carrying guilt for something you believe you did wrong, something you believe caused the suffering you are living through now. You have confessed it. You have asked God to forgive you, but you have not forgiven yourself. That unforgiveness has become weight. It wraps around every prayer you say before bed. It tells you that you deserve to suffer, that you do not deserve to have this weight lifted. As long as you believe that, the weight will remain. Maria Costello was 69 years old. She lived in Boston, Massachusetts. She carried weight for 11 years after her husband passed away. She believed she had not done enough to save him. She believed God was punishing her by making her carry this weight. She learned the 3 sentences to say before bed. She said them for 7 nights. Nothing changed. She could not understand why it was not working. Then a priest asked her one question. "Maria, have you forgiven yourself?" She started to cry. She said no. He told her that before she said the 3 sentences that night, she needed to say one sentence first, out loud, to herself. "I forgive myself for what I could not control." She said it that night. She said the 3 sentences. She slept through the night. The weight lifted. She said later, "I had been holding the weight with one hand and pushing away forgiveness with the other. The moment I forgave myself, the weight had nothing to hold on to." Before you say the 3 sentences tonight, you must ask yourself this question. Is there something you have not forgiven yourself for? Something you believe you did wrong or failed to do? If the answer is yes, then tonight, before you say the 3 sentences, you must say out loud, "I forgive myself for what I could not control." Say it even if you do not feel it yet. Say it because Pope John Paul II understood that forgiveness is not a feeling, it is a decision. The feeling follows the decision. You decide tonight, you say it, you release it. Then you say the 3 sentences. Then God lifts what only he can lift. The second blockage is attachment to the weight itself. You have carried this weight for so long that it has become part of your identity. You do not know who you are without it. It has become the thing you talk about when people ask how you are. It has become the thing you mention in prayer. It has become the lens through which you see your entire life. Releasing it feels like losing a part of yourself. Diane Foster was 73 years old. She lived in Austin, Texas. She had carried weight since her daughter was diagnosed with a chronic illness in 2001. For 12 years, Diane prayed for healing. She offered her own suffering for her daughter. The weight she carried was not worry, it was identity. She was the mother who suffered for her daughter. When someone taught her the 3 sentences to say before bed, she resisted. She said, "If I release this, what will I offer God?" A spiritual director told her, "Diane, God does not want your suffering. He wants your trust. He wants you to release the weight so he can work." She said the 3 sentences that night. She felt panic, like she was losing something. She said them again the next night. By the 4th night, the panic was gone. By the 7th night, the weight was gone. Her daughter's condition did not change, but Diane changed. She stopped defining herself by what she carried. She said later, "I thought I was being faithful by carrying that weight. I was blocking God by holding on to it." Before you say the 3 sentences tonight, you must ask yourself this question. Have I become attached to this weight? Do I know who I am without it? If the answer is yes, then tonight you must decide. You must decide that your identity is not what you carry. Your identity is daughter of God, beloved, forgiven, free. You say that out loud before you say the 3 sentences. My identity is not what I carry. My identity is beloved, daughter of God. Say it. Mean it. Then say the 3 sentences. Then let God lift what he has been waiting to lift. If you say yes to this in your heart right now, you are already identifying yourself as someone who will not carry this weight into another morning. How many more nights will you go to bed carrying what God never asked you to carry? How many more mornings will you wake up tired because the weight is still there? What would change in your life if you woke up tomorrow and the weight was gone? What would you pray for if you were not praying for relief from this crushing heaviness? Who could you help if the energy you spend carrying this weight was freed to serve someone else? What will you say when you stand before God and he asks you why you carried something he tried so many times to lift? Pope John Paul II understood these questions. He asked them of himself during his final years when his body was failing and his suffering was visible to the entire world. He could have carried bitterness. He could have carried despair. He carried neither. He released every weight that was not his cross. He let God lift what only God could lift. He slept in peace even as his body broke. He left what you are about to receive specifically for women like you in moments like this one, when the weight has become unbearable and you do not know how to let it go. There is a moment in the final years of Pope John Paul II's life that very few people know about. It was documented by Cardinal Stanislaw Dziwisz, his personal secretary, who was with him every day until he passed away. In the spring of 2004, Pope John Paul II could barely walk. Every movement caused pain. He could no longer lift the chalice during Mass without help. One night, Cardinal Dziwisz found him kneeling beside his bed. His hands were open. His face was wet with tears. He was whispering something in Polish. Cardinal Dziwisz wrote later that he heard him say, "I release to you what I cannot carry. Lift what only you can lift." The Cardinal said that Pope John Paul II prayed that prayer every night during his final year. He said that despite the suffering, despite the pain, the Holy Father slept in peace. He had learned to release the weight before bed and let God do what only God can do while he slept. What you are about to receive is not theory. It is what he lived. It is what kept him in peace when his body was breaking. It is what he left for you. This is what Pope John Paul II documented. This is what Margaret Sullivan did on the first night. This is what you will do tonight. Before you go to bed, you will go to the place where you sleep. If you can kneel beside your bed, kneel. If kneeling is too painful, sit on the edge of your bed. You will say 3 sentences out loud. Not in your mind, out loud. Your voice matters. Your words spoken into the air of your room matter. The first sentence is this: God, I release to you every weight I have carried that was never mine to carry. Say it slowly. Let every word land. You are not asking God to take your cross. You are releasing the weight you picked up without knowing it. The weight of guilt, the weight of shame, the weight of believing you deserve to suffer, the weight of carrying what someone else should have carried, the weight of trying to fix what only God can fix. Release it. Say the words. After you say the first sentence, wait. Do not rush to the second sentence. Wait 10 seconds. Breathe. Let the release happen. Then say the second sentence. I release the suffering I took on because I believed I deserved it. This is the sentence that breaks the lie you have been living under. The lie that says you must carry this because you failed, because you sinned, because you did not do enough. You did not take on this suffering because God gave it to you. You took it on because you believed the lie. Tonight you release it. Say the words. Let them crack open what has been locked inside you. After the second sentence, wait again. 10 seconds. Breathe. Feel the weight shifting. Then say the third sentence. I ask you to lift tonight what only you can carry. This is the sentence of trust. You are asking God to do while you sleep what you cannot do while you are awake. You are giving him permission to lift the weight. You are surrendering control. Say the words. Then stop praying. Do not pray the rosary. Do not pray your usual night prayers. Do not add anything else. Fold your hands. Get into bed. Close your eyes. Go to sleep. Let God work while you sleep. Say this before bed and God will lift the weight you carry. This is the contract the title made with you. This is the fulfillment. These 3 sentences, said out loud, every night, before bed. God will lift what you have been carrying, not because you earned it, because you released it. For the next 7 nights you will say these 3 sentences before bed. Every night. Do not skip a night. Do not add other prayers after them. Say the 3 sentences and go to sleep immediately. By the 3rd night, you will feel the weight shift. By the 7th night, it will be lifting. Write down the 3 sentences on a piece of paper and keep it beside your bed. If you wake up during the night and feel the weight pressing down, say the sentences again, as many times as you need. God does not grow tired of lifting what you release. During the week, pay attention to what you feel when you wake up. Pay attention to how your body feels. Pay attention to whether you are thinking differently about the thing that has been crushing you. The weight does not lift all at once for everyone. For some, it lifts in 1 night. For others, it takes 7 nights. For others, it takes longer. But it will lift if you do not stop releasing it. Keep saying the sentences. Keep going to sleep without adding anything else. Let God do the work he has been waiting to do. And if you commit to this tonight, if you say yes in your heart that you will say these 3 sentences before bed and let God lift what only he can carry, then you are already on the other side of this weight. Tonight, before you go to bed, you will do exactly what Margaret Sullivan did on the first night in Pittsburgh. You will kneel beside your bed if you can, or sit on the edge if kneeling is too painful. You will say the 3 sentences out loud. God, I release to you every weight I have carried that was never mine to carry. I release the suffering I took on because I believed I deserved it. I ask you to lift tonight what only you can carry. Then you will get into bed and go to sleep without praying anything else. You will not add a rosary. You will not add your usual prayers. You will say the 3 sentences and sleep. That is all. That is everything. Margaret knelt at 10:15 that first night. Her knees hurt. Her shoulders ached. She said the sentences. She slept 5 hours. By the 3rd night, the weight was gone. Pope John Paul II believed that when a soul releases what it was never meant to hold, God moves while that soul sleeps to lift what only he can lift. He believed that healing happens in the hours we cannot control. He believed that the weight we carry blocks the grace God is trying to give us. The moment we release it, the grace flows. Tonight, you release it. Tomorrow morning, you will wake up different. What you have just received is not meant to stay with you alone. Someone you know has been carrying weight that is crushing her. Someone from your parish, someone you see at daily mass who looks exhausted even though she prays every day. Someone who has told you that she does not know how much longer she can do this. Someone whose daughter has stopped going to mass and she blames herself. Someone who lost her husband years ago and the grief has turned into something heavier than grief. Someone who is in pain every single night and nothing the doctors have tried has worked. That woman needs to hear what you just heard. She needs to know that Pope John Paul II documented how to release the weight before bed. She needs to know that God will lift what she has been carrying if she says the 3 sentences out loud and goes to sleep. You know who she is. You are thinking of her name right now. Send this to her. Do not wait. Do not wonder if she will think it is strange. She will not think it is strange. She will think it is an answer. She has been praying for something exactly like this. You are the answer to her prayer. Send it tonight. Tell her you watched this and you thought of her. Tell her to watch it all the way through. Tell her to do what it says before bed tonight. One woman sends it to another. That is how grace has always multiplied in the church. Not through institutions, through women who love each other enough to share what saved them. May the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit bless you tonight as you release the weight you were never meant to carry and receive the rest He has been trying to give you. May Pope John Paul II, who suffered until his final breath and still slept in peace because he knew how to release what he could not carry, intercede for you tonight and every night this week as you say the 3 sentences before bed. When you say these words with complete sincerity and trust, God will lift the weight while you sleep. You will not be the woman who carried this into another year. You are the woman who released it tonight.